failure is a rite of passage. Like, it's going to happen. And so the quicker you realize that that is the case, and the sooner that you ask for help, the quicker you'll accelerate your growth path.
This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 345, Sales Failure is a Rite of Passage, an interview with Kyle Coleman.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. This is Pat Helmers, and I got a question for you. Are you perfect? I know I'm not. In fact, failure has been a reoccurring event throughout my entire life. But it's from that failure that I've found a path to success. Winning sales is founded on sales failure, which, according to our guest, is a rite of passage. Just like past guests Nikki Ivey and Josh Roth, this week we meet another member of the SDR Defenders, Kyle Coleman. Kyle's a strong proponent for SDRs, that is, sales development reps. They have cold calling responsibilities that they shoulder day after day. In today's episode, Kyle shares advice on cold calling confidence, professional growth, and why you need to work for a company that you believe in. Unless you're 100% happy with your current job, this is the episode for you. And so, with no further ado, let's get to it. Welcome, Kyle. Are you ready to babble?
You know it.
Kyle, you're the VP of Revenue and Growth Enablement at Clary. Did I pronounce that right?
That's right.
From what I can tell, it's a SaaS company. They do AI-driven marketing and sales automation stuff like forecasting and pipeline management, things like that, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we're a revenue operations platform helping people kind of understand and dissect their revenue process across the entire revenue engine, from marketing to sales to customer success.
Yeah, and that's interesting. But the thing that really caught my eye, looking at your LinkedIn profile, that you have a common interest with Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And why don't you tell the audience, what is that connection?
Well, I don't have an entire herd of them quite yet, but I am a corgi enthusiast. And as soon as my friends and network realize this about me, I've been inundated with corgi memes and pictures and videos and you name it for the last about 5 years. So it's become a defining characteristic of my life at this point.
I love that. That's absolutely hilarious. They're really cute. But that is not why I reached out to you to be on Sales Babble. The reason I reached out to you is that you're a member of SDR Defenders, and you're all about defending sales development reps, SDRs. You started as an SDR, and I'm assuming we're talking about cold outreach on the telephone. Is that how you started?
That's right. Yes, that was my first gig in B2B sales.
And when was it when you first got that realization that you were going to be successful at that? Was there like a deal or a month or something? How did you know that you had that, yeah, this is going to work for me?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure it was ever, super clear to me, a light bulb that went on that said, oh, okay, I can succeed in this. It was more about me understanding that the SDR gig took a combination of skills that I felt like I had and that I enjoyed. And the work was challenging and fulfilling, and the failures were encouraging and energizing, just as energizing as the successes. And I just really wanted to figure out how to tear the process apart, build it, optimize it, and scale it. And I was lucky enough to be able to do that as an individual contributor and then as a leader at my previous company, Looker.
Why do you find it challenging and fulfilling when many people think about picking up a phone and calling a stranger, they start to shake?
Right. Yeah, it's a good question. And it depends a lot on the company that you're working for, of course. And I choose my companies with a really high level of, or I vet them really carefully to make sure that the software that I'm selling is genuinely helping people. And if I can always feel confident in that fact, then I've never been super reluctant to pick up the phone and call, because I know in my heart of hearts that what I'm doing really is genuinely helping or helpful and benefiting people. And so I've always had that to sort of lean back on and to be the foundation of why I do what I do. And that for me has made sales much easier, is always keeping that in the back of my mind.
So you're not one of these guys who finds something that's really lucrative but doesn't necessarily believe in it, or you don't believe in the possibility that you can do a good job selling something if you don't believe in it.
That I could not do. That is not my personal style. My entire everything that I do is sort of the guardrails around it are that it needs to be helping people. The software that I sell, the way that I manage people, the way that I lead, the way that I try and strategize, the work that I do with SDR defenders and posting on LinkedIn is all really meant to help people. So I could never be the kind of person that just chases the paycheck for the sake of chasing the paycheck. There's just way more in life than that. And yeah, so that's kind of my North Star is trying to be as genuinely helpful as I can be.
When you started, what kind of mistakes were you making that you've like set aside now, that you're not a part of anymore?
Well, I'm still making mistakes. They're just different. They're different kinds of mistakes.
No, I only have experts on Sales Babble. So Kyle, I'm certain you're doing it perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If anybody ever tells you that they're going about their day and their weeks and not making mistakes, they are absolutely lying to you. It's unavoidable. The difference, and I think what separates kind of good from great, is how you respond to those mistakes. So it says things as simple as, when I was getting started as an SDR, there wasn't, or the sales automation type technology like SalesLoft and Outreach, that was just getting started. So it was brand new to me. And I can't even tell you the number of times I incorrectly set up different, what they call tokens, for company names or people's names or something like that, and sent hundreds, if not thousands, of emails that just had the wrong name, or hey name, literally, or some blank sort of value or something like that. And just like the biggest facepalm moment of all is when you spend a ton of time crafting a really nice email and then you get somebody's name wrong. It's happened more than once, which is, it happens to everybody. And that type of thing is unavoidable. As long as you're learning from it, as long as you are not afraid to admit your failure and you work with people to help you improve and help you succeed and help you learn and grow from it, that's what life is. That's what work is. So that's kind of how I approach things now, and how I help. The mindset that I try and engender with everybody that I work with is failure is a rite of passage. Like, it's going to happen. And so the quicker you realize that is the case, and the sooner that you ask for help, the quicker you'll accelerate your growth path.
Yeah, I get pushback sometimes on people with this because I've found that I've learned quicker when I've failed.
Yeah.
There is something to be said that if you listen to the experts and you do what they said, maybe say, maybe you can avoid failure. But I do believe in jumping in.
I agree. And for me, confidence is not necessarily about having the right answers at the outset of doing what you do. Confidence is knowing that you can make a decision with imperfect information. And when things inevitably start to go awry, you can course correct. You can figure out the right path forward. You can adjust. You can evolve. That's what confidence is. And if you have that mindset that things do not have to be perfect from the jump, they won't ever be perfect from the jump, and you just have a bias toward action to actually do things and experiment and try for yourself and do the analysis and learn and grow that way, that is how you accelerate your growth arc in my mind.
Awesome. So you've really set me up for my next question really, really well. Is that if you were to advise our listeners, our sales babblers out here who are in a similar position, who are trying to connect with decision makers and they're trying to get a sales call scheduled, mm-hmm. what advice do you have for us?
On the most obvious level, Pat, it is you have to stick out from the noise. You have to take time and put thought into your outreach so that you can make your prospects think. If you're not stopping your prospects and making them think by creating thoughtful messaging yourself, then why should they take the time to read and respond to what you're sending out there? So it has to be personalized. And yeah, you still have to play the numbers game to a certain extent. And there can be some undercurrent of automation that's happening behind the scenes, but you have to take the time to learn your personas, learn what's top of mind for them, and learn how your product helps solve those things that are top of mind, and then communicate with them on a personal and professional level. Take an omni-channel kind of approach that is LinkedIn and email and calling and direct mail and video messaging, and every tool that you have at your disposal, you have to use and you have to learn and experiment yourself. If you only do the things that the sales gurus tell you to do, you're necessarily behind the curve because everybody else is already doing that. So you have to take it upon yourself to kind of carve out new processes for yourself and your team via small experiments. So that would be my advice. Always personalize and always be trying something new.
I like this term omnichannel. I don't think I've heard anybody else use this before.
Yeah, you got to be everywhere.
Huh. I like that.
Yeah, it's interesting because and the way that we try and preach this with our team at Clary is most companies only give their SDR teams and their sales teams minimum activity numbers that they have to hit. You have to make X number of calls every day or X number of calls every week. What we do is we give both minimums and maximums. And we say, you need to make at least this many calls this week, but don't make more than this many calls because you also have to do this many emails and this many personalized emails and this many LinkedIn connections. And here's this whole activity mix that you need to abide by to be maximally successful. So fall within these ranges and you're going to be in good shape.
I've never heard that before. This is cool. This is really cool.
It's game changing. It changes the way that individuals think about their role because it's guardrails, like I mentioned before. We're giving people structure and framework, and within that structure and framework, there's plenty of room for individual autonomy to affect bottoms up change.
So, how do people find these kinds of things? Tools, processes?
Yeah, I think, I think the mistake that a lot of people and teams make is they take advice at face value and they try and see what, the John Barrowses of the world, who I love, by the way, they see what he says and they try and apply it word for word or point by point to their business without actually thinking about how to adapt or evolve his recommendations and his style to your product and your personas and you individually, what you do well as a person, as a prospector, as an SDR salesperson. So my advice is don't just take advice from people, but take that advice and think about it and think about how you're going to apply it to your own company and your own personal style. And if you can always have some sort of hypothesis about things that you can do differently, and you can test those hypotheses via small experiments, little A/B tests, that are running every day or every week, you'll start to learn a lot more and then communicate with your teammates. This is another mistake that so many people make, that they feel like success is a zero-sum game and their success is necessarily coming at the expense of somebody else's. And that's just somebody on their team. And that's just not the case. And every success that you have, every failure that you have should be shared and broadcasted and celebrated among the team so that you can, as a group, evolve the process and help each other avoid pitfalls and pursue things that are working and accelerate the way that the team learns and that the overall process and overall structures evolve as a result.
So, smart people, talented people want to grow. Mm-hmm. In your opinion, what's a reasonable growth path for somebody who's in an SDR position? Like, what would it look like? What would the timeline be? What would the money be like? Maybe the levels of responsibility. Maybe they go into management. Maybe that. What do you think is the right direction for professional growth?
That's a really good question, and it's not one that's super easy to answer because everybody's different. And as similar as maybe SDR roles may be company to company, the people that are doing the job are very different. And I've worked with about 50 or so SDRs who have gone on to do something else that's not SDRing. And I think probably about a third of them have moved into closing sales roles. The other two-thirds have gone into marketing or marketing operations or alliances or management or sales engineering or even support and engineering type roles. And the way that I think about professional growth is less about the title that you're pursuing and more about the experiences that you want to have. What is fulfilling to you? What are your intrinsic motivators? And how can that next role satisfy those motivators? How will it keep you energized? Why will you jump out of bed in the morning excited about the work that you're going to do? And if we can find that for you, then that's the growth path for you. And all the other things you mentioned, Pat, the salary and the responsibilities and everything like that will fall into place eventually. The most important thing is that you find a long-term career that is exciting and energizing and giving you the experiences that you feel like you want to have in your career.
That sounds good. But I know a lot of people are in the space of like, I got family, I got kids, I got responsibility. I know a lot of people chase money, but it's a paradox, isn't it? I've found that in my life, that if you pursue what you love, the money eventually shows up because you're going to be really good at what you do, and people will see that.
I think that's the right attitude to take. I think you have to take a long-term view and realize if the work you're doing is something that you're passionate about, then it's going to be something you're good at, and it's something that you thrive in, and that you earn more responsibility and you earn more pay as a result. I know certainly that's what's happened for me. I lucked into the role that I got early in my career and found ways to earn more responsibility, earn the trust of the people that I was working with because I care and I'm passionate about what I do. And I've seen it happen, like I said, to scores of people over the years where, they make a horizontal move, and that's totally, totally fine. Career growth is not a ladder that goes straight up all the time. It is a rock wall. And sometimes you need to move over on that rock wall before you can move up. And if you keep that long-term view in mind, you're going to just be way, way more satisfied with the work you're doing day to day.
It's bouldering.
Yes.
I like that metaphor. I got some listeners who've been selling tech for years, and they believe there's ageism out there, that they're being let go or it's more difficult for them to get a job, despite the fact that they've been selling tech forever. What do you think? Is that true? What advice would you have for them? Is it true?
I think it's probably true. And unfortunately, I think it's true because so much of sales now, especially here in Silicon Valley, is based around technology and using the types of technologies that just come easier to people that have been using them their whole lives versus the more traditional sales methodologies. And inside sales is so much more prevalent now than and maybe it has been in the past. So I think to counterbalance that, there's definitely things that the savvier vets can do, and I don't think that their strategies are outdated by any means. It's just a matter of proving value, and that value typically is proven by building relationships. That's what I've seen the veteran salespeople do better than any of the the fresher sales talent out there. Is this unbelievable and uncanny ability to create, manage, and cultivate relationships. And if you can be that kind of person that is creating relationships with prospects and customers while also challenging them and making sure that they understand and can see the light of what your product is doing, then I think you can stay ahead of the curve and make sure that your sales management team or whoever it is understands your value.
Absolutely. Great answer. Awesome. Great answer. Kyle, how can people find you online?
So the only social channel that I'm really active on is LinkedIn, and it's just my name, Kyle T. Coleman, is my little handle there on LinkedIn. Also, we're publishing a fair amount of content on sdrdefenders.com. If that is something that you're interested in either consuming or helping contribute to, please feel free to reach out. Those are the main two spots right now.
Yeah, I'll put both of those in the show notes. Did you want to do a shout out to Clary?
I did a little bit at the beginning, but to say again, Clary is really an interesting technology that's using artificial intelligence and machine learning to help companies make decisions today based on what they think is going to happen tomorrow. So all the forecasts, all the forecasting, and all of the sort of predictive insights that you need to have about your business, especially from a revenue standpoint, is what Clary helps you solve. So that's what we do.
Cool. If you could give our listeners one piece of advice they could take action on this week, what would that be?
Wash your hands. Is that is that what they're looking for? On the sales side, Pat, I would say focus on your network on LinkedIn. It's something I've been doing for a few months now, just kind of publicizing what otherwise would be kind of private thoughts of mine about work and life, and kind of the intersection of the two, and showcasing yourself, especially in a sales role where LinkedIn is a part of who you are as a salesperson. It's what your prospects can see. So making your perspective public and humanizing yourself and building a network is a rising tide that lifts all boats. You'll get connected to awesome people. Like, this is how we met, right? Was networking on LinkedIn. So take some time to think about what you have experience and expertise in, and don't be afraid to broadcast it on LinkedIn. You'll be pleasantly surprised by the response.
Yeah. Yep. Kyle, thank you for taking a moment to babble here on Sales Babble. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Pat.
To learn more about our guest, go to the show notes at www.salesbabble.com, and you can find this episode and all the show notes for past episodes right on the homepage. Now, one of the best ways people hear about Sales Babble is from listener reviews. If you could go to your favorite podcast app and leave us a 5-star comment, that would be really great, because word of mouth is how podcasts spread. If you have a question or a comment about this episode or any episode, don't hesitate to reach out by clicking on the Babble Me button right on the website. Love to hear what you think. That's all we've got for today, so until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.